If you think joining Equity AEA is going to solve all of your audition problems and get you seen at every single Broadway and major regional theater audition across the country, think again. The reality of being a union member is far more complicated, and in today's video, I'm breaking down the biggest myths and truths of AEA membership. Many actors believe that getting their equity card is going to equal more auditions and instant credibility in the industry. The hard truth: being union does not guarantee you more auditions, more callbacks, or more bookings. If we were having this conversation a few years back, the only way that you would be able to get an equity card is if you either, one, were given an equity contract and you had to join the union, or you acquired a certain number of weeks after being EMC and then you could join. That is no longer the case anymore with open access. And there are more performers rushing to join the union without having all of the knowledge and information and facts about what happens once you join the union. Now, I am a union member, and I am not telling you that you should not join the union. What I am telling you, and this is the question that I get all the time from so many people, is, when should I join the union, and is it right for me? And no one can make that decision for you. You have to make that decision for yourself. So understanding how the industry has shifted now is going to give you the knowledge to understand the pros and the cons of what is right for you at this time. So open access means that you can go online to the Equity website and you can apply with your credits, with the information they ask in the form, and you can see if you can join the union just by you saying, hey, I've done a couple of professional shows. I'd like to pay my dues. I'd like to join the union now. With that has come a huge influx of new equity members. And that does essentially mean that there is going to be more competition and fewer audition slots available for union members at EPAs and ECCs. Is that the only reason why it's harder to get an audition slot? No, it's not the only reason. And this is just based on my opinion and my experiences as a union member myself. And also, I have a large client pool of both union and non-union members that are in New York City, that are in California, and that are all over the country attending these open calls and submitting online. But it is true, if you ask any person, whether they're union or non-union, those of us that are actually in the grind doing the auditions, that there are fewer opportunities to be seen. And this is on many different levels. There are actually less EPAs being hosted more than one day. If you went to auditions, a few years ago, pre-2020, many union theaters would do multiple days of EPAs and multiple days of ECCs. And now what we're seeing, even currently right now, is that many theaters just aren't having more than one day of EPA auditions, which means you have a fewer amount of time slots that union members can sign up for. And then that in turn filters down into non-union actors really not getting seen, especially those of you in New York City. If you're a non-union actor, most of the time you're going to EPAs and ECCs and you're saying, well, I can't get seen because I'm not equity. I can't get an appointment. I can't sign up for a slot. So I'm going to join the union and then I'll get seen and I'll be able to at least have a chance. That's just not true. If you are an equity actor, which I am, and if I go online and I try to sign up 7 days in advance when the open list becomes available to sign up for an EPA or an ECC, there are only so many slots. And I'm not kidding you. You will not believe me. But it is true that you get put into a waiting room, a virtual holding room, where that you can then sign up. And there are days that I am number like 800, I am number 1000. Sometimes I win the actor lottery, as I call it, and I'm number like 30 something. And I open the floodgates when I get in line and I can sign up and there's like all of these time slots available. But that does not happen. There are so many auditions that I can't even get a time slot for. And especially for those of us in New York City, there are only going to be 40 slots on the waiting walk-in alternate list for union members. That's it. And then maybe you get lucky and a lot of people don't show up sometimes when they sign up for a slot. So you can be seen, but you still have to show up and you have to wait, not knowing if you're going to get seen or not as a union member. It was always like that before in the past, but now it's more challenging because there are more people in the union signing up for slots, and there are less days available for time slots because theaters are doing the smallest amount of EPA and ECC days that they are required to do. That's just the way that it is. So don't expect that if you join the union, you will immediately have the opportunity to get seen in every single audition that is put out there into the world. If you are in the West Coast, it is a little bit different, because when you go to a West Coast audition, an equity audition, especially like an EPA or even ECC, it's a little dead. It's a little slow. I go back and forth between both coasts, and sometimes I will hit the LA auditions because it is so calm, it is so quiet, and if you don't have an appointment, you can get seen. If you're non-union, I tell all of my non-union clients that are on the West Coast to go to every single LA EPA and ECC, because you'll more than likely have an opportunity to get seen. Another myth that often leads people to join the union without all of the correct information and knowledge is that they think there are equity shows that I want to be seen for and that I want to be cast in, and they're not going to consider me unless I am a union member. Wrong. Totally false. Now, you may not have a chance to get an audition slot unless you go to the non-union audition slots and non-union audition signups, which some of them do, but not all. But keep in mind, unless we're talking about a Broadway show or a Broadway national tour, almost 99.9% of the time, they are going to have non-union contracts. So when you're seeing those equity auditions, okay, whether it's an EPA or an ECC, you're seeing them and you're thinking, I have to be a union member to be in that production, especially for regional theater companies. No. They're saying equity is requiring them because they are going to have so many equity contracts. And here's the kicker. Most theaters are not going to tell you how many equity contracts they actually have available or are willing to consider in every single show. They're not required to do that. They are not required to tell you we only have 2 equity contracts in this entire production and we're hiring, there's like 8 leads and then we're hiring like 8 ensemble people. 2 out of like 16 people, 20 people in a cast are only going to be union. The rest are going to be non-union. So it's a bit confusing because you think that everyone's going to be equity in that cast. And more than likely, it is not. More than likely, the ensemble, unless we're talking about a couple of major regional theaters on the East Coast, more than likely the ensemble is going to be non-union, and even some of the leading and supporting roles could possibly be non-union as well. So remind yourself that they're going to have a limited amount of contracts and that you still have an opportunity to be cast as a non-union person in an equity house with non-union members, which is great training and great experience. Are you thinking about taking your card? Let me know down in the comments below. I'd love to kind of see where you are in your thoughts. The other big myth that often people think without knowing before they join the union is that I want to be considered for a Broadway show, so I need to be equity for them to take me seriously. No. I can give you the names of so many people that have a Broadway contract with nothing on their resume, or they were non-union, had done maybe some non-union performances or tours, and then they got a Broadway contract. It happens all of the time. Go look at your favorite Broadway performers and see where did they get their first equity contract. And you may not even be able, to find out, because there's going to be, unless they got a Broadway show, you don't know what was their first actual equity contract. Nobody's really going to say that on their resume. But look at their Broadway credits. So if they took a Broadway show, then that definitely was an equity contract. Many of these people, you just don't know unless you see them because they're an influencer or they're sharing their life online. Many of these people come from non-union work, or they just got out of college and they booked a show because they were the right person for the role. And that's what I mean about understanding. You don't have to be a union member, a card-carrying union member, to get seen for Broadway shows. Is it going to be hard? Harder? Less opportunities? Absolutely. Absolutely, you're going to have less opportunities because you can't get on a sign-up list. You may have to wait longer, but there are a couple of things that I want you to consider about whether or not it is right for you now to take your card. If you're struggling with auditions and maybe you're getting seen at some of them and you don't really know why you're not landing a job, then I want you to take a look at your audition materials. And if you need help with audition categories and songs and shows, especially for those in like the pop, rock, folk, R&B, genre where we're taking radio tunes for these big new musicals, then I want you to download my free guide to the Ultimate Audition Book Guide that I've got for you. It's totally free. There's a link in the description box below. It's like a 21 plus page guide that I put together because I get this question so many times of, well, why I have to take in a song not from this musical? I have to take in a song for this musical that's from the radio? What does that mean? So I put it all in a free guide for you. I want you to go down. I want you to download that, and it will be really helpful for you when you're thinking about audition material and what you need and what you don't need in your book, with full descriptions and explanations and examples along the way. So when should you join Equity AEA? When you are ready, without feeling pressured. If you're feeling the pressure of, I don't look professional, or it's going to solve my problem of not being seen, that is not a reason to join the union. Here are a couple of reasons, though, why you may want to join the union. If you have been consistently booking contracts at equity houses and you understand that this step of joining the union means that you will not be able to book non-union work, you can't do non-union tours, and you have to take a contract that is equity and that they are able to offer you equity contracts, then it may be time for you to join the union. If you're also at a place in your career and you are thinking, you know what, I don't really want to do every show anymore. I only really want to do shows that are very specific to the work that I want to be doing right now and at a professional level. And I am okay with booking less work and having less opportunities to even audition, then you may want to join the union. But if you are someone that is still building their resume, you are still learning about how the industry functions, you're still networking, you're still trying to discover how to submit, how to get an agent, it may not be the right time for you to join the union, but only you can make that decision. Staying non-union is not bad. I was non-union for a large portion of my career because it gave me the ability to play at regional theaters. Even though they had other equity contracts, it gave me a place to really build my resume, really craft my experience and my training after already having my bachelor's and my MFA in musical theater. And I was in a location before I took my card, I was in a location where there weren't a lot of equity contracts, and most of them, to be very honest with you, went to men. And I knew that, and I wanted to work. And I did shows back to back to back as a non-union performer in equity houses. And I went from playing ensemble to supporting to leading roles. When I decided to move back to New York, right before 2020 happened, then I made the decision that it was time for me to take my card because I was going back to New York City at a different level of my career and also a different time in my life. Equity membership is a personal decision, but just don't assume that it's going to be your golden ticket to more auditions and a bigger, better career. It's a tool. But you are the one that ultimately books the job. Make sure you fully understand the realities before taking the leap. And if it's right and it's ready for you and you're ready to take that leap, then go for it. I want you to watch this video next about how to prepare like a pro for audition season. It's going to be extremely helpful for you after having this conversation so you can continue to grow in your career at a comfortable pace with confidence and with clarity. I'll see you there.